Ladies and gentlemen, stand by in this episode of the G-Shock Watcher where we're going buy auction hunting. Thank you so much for joining me today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. It is a Saturday afternoon on the 8th of February 2025. We're getting close to the end of Chinese New Year, and as it is the weekend, I thought we would spend some time having a look at what's going on in Bai. And sometimes, we kind of jump around. I'm going to spend some time. We're going to touch on some high-end expensive watch, or at least one. Let's have a look at the most expensive G-Shock watch that's currently being auctioned on Bai. But I want to spend some time in this episode to focus more on what watches are getting the most action, the most amount of bids. And there's some really interesting watches. Obviously, there are some which are high priced. There's some that are actually low priced. There's some that will actually surprise you, which I think is really interesting as well. So I'm really, really glad that you're here with me to talk about watches today. Before I start, I do want to acknowledge one of the pieces of feedback I got from one of the viewers, which I think was fantastic, was regarding the comparison of the Mudmaster watches and the Mudman watches. And one of the things I called out that was missing from the Mudman watch was some of the features which provided more rigidity, I guess, or more protection. And there were things like MVT, some of the gel absorption, those sorts of things. His simple comment just really made me think. It was basically because with a Mudman, you've got the digital watch components. With a Mudmaster, you've got the analog. And of course, with less moving parts, you don't necessarily need all of that additional protection. So it's really about designing for what's actually important for the watch based on the interface you actually have. Is it analog? Is it digital? So thank you so much for that comment. It really made me wake up. Before we get started, I got told to always make sure I sort of say what I'm wearing today. I'm wearing the Gravity Master, right? Trying to make sure I keep giving this watch a go. So I should put my arm up in front of the microphone, but I'm using the Gravity Master. I want to keep trying this. I'm trying to convince myself it's a good watch. I know some people do love this watch. I know some people don't like this watch. There's some very strong feelings about it. But I'm giving it a go. It's a light watch. It's a good watch. It's kind of like the Mudman, right? The Mudman, it's a light watch. This is also, I would always say, even lighter, hard to realize you actually are wearing it. That's certainly one of the benefits. But, a different style watch, different color. It's still a good watch, just not a great watch from my point of view. Anyway, before we start, I should probably say as well, thank you so much for support. Please like and subscribe if you can. Now, let's jump into some of the watches. Now, first off, in our watches here is the expensive ones. Let's start off at the expensive part first. Let's start off at that area where we kind of look at it and kind of go, that would be incredible to be able to afford to have a watch like that, but I'm not going to be able to afford a watch like that. Sometimes I might go for something a bit more expensive, $1,000, maybe a little bit more. But these are certainly the aspirational watches, which just are really out there, because sometimes people sort of think G-Shock is not necessarily expensive, but there are some very expensive watches out there that are G-Shock watches. So I want to show you one particular one. This is probably the most expensive one on Bai right now through JD Items Auction. This is the Casio MRG B2000JS-1AJR. Very, very pretty watch. Current price, 2.5 million yen, which translates to around about $23,675,000 Sing, which would completely destroy me if I went ahead and actually purchased that, as well as my marriage. So let's have a quick squeeze. This is the actual watch itself. Now, what's interesting here is the online price is $12,888 Sing. The going price right now, current price $23,675. So it's currently $11,000 more than what you would have paid for it if you'd bought it when it came out. So it's accumulated value quite significantly, almost doubled its actual value. Now, of course, I always say to people can say their watches rise in value. Until you actually sell the watch, it hasn't increased in value, right? You need to be able to say, I bought it for this, I sold it for this is the increase in the value. But certainly, when you look at these actual prices, the market is willing to go ahead and actually pay for 23. Now, I will note, no one's actually bid for it, right? So the market maybe doesn't want to go ahead and actually pay so much, but the seller certainly believes that they're going to be able to go ahead and get a starting price of 2.5 million, but essentially at a buyout price of 2.8 million. So hugely aspirational, probably not going to go ahead and actually happen. One day remaining, they'll probably be sitting on that watch. But it is a very, very nice watch. You know, it's got that beaten steel, very cool back plate on the actual watch itself. Got all the standard features. It is an MRG, right? You're not going to go wrong for this one, but just very, very, very expensive from that point of view. So maybe not necessarily the watch that you're going to go for. But never mind. What we want to do is talk about some of those watches which are seeing a lot of action. So these are the watches which lots of people are bidding on, right? So they're seeing the watch, they're seeing value, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. So what we want to do is jump in and have a look at some of those watches. And I pulled out a few of them. I probably should have done less because you don't want the videos to go too long. But let's jump around and have a look at some of these particular watches. The first up is an MRG watch, and this is the MRG B2100B-1AJR. So a play on the B2100s, the GA B2100s. They've taken that particular model, the octagonal shape, added some more of the analog features, so you don't sort of necessarily see the digital anymore. I bought one of these particular watches, which was the anniversary edition, the black and gold one. Certainly not the MRG, because the MRG is very, very high end, but this is the high end version of that particular watch. No digital elements whatsoever. It's all analog from that point of view. This particular watch right now, 109 bids, 7 hours remaining. So let's have a look. And what I wanted to do was try to show the comparison of what the current bids actually are as compared to what the registered price actually was through Shockbase. You've got to thank Shockbase, G-Central, these websites, they provide so much great information. It really helps us to build these videos. So if we look at this MRG B2100B, if we go down, the actual market price in Singapore was about $6,800. Yen we don't have, so we can work off the Singapore dollars because that's what I operate in. It's currently going for 3.6. So you can get an understanding as to why people might be bidding on this. It's kind of close to half the price, or just a little bit over half the price at that point. So to be able to get an MRG, very elegant looking watch, if we go back and actually have a look, these are very, very nice watches, these MRGs, right? They're very nice, very stylish. You can go ahead and actually wear these watches in a corporate space, in a casual space, and you're going to have a great experience overall, right? So, if you've got the ability to pay for a $3,000 watch and want an MRG with all of the features, this is certainly the watch to be able to go for from that point of view. So 50% of the price, not too bad. Next watch to talk about, I really like this watch. It's not necessarily super high end. In fact, we're going to look at a multitude of different watches, which some are very expensive, some are not expensive. We're looking at how much bidding action is actually going on in these particular watches. This one is a GMW B5000, so it's a full digital watch. You can actually have a look here. It's got tough solar, multi-band 6, Bluetooth, all those different features in that sort of metal watch with the additional, I guess you would kind of say, decoration. It's got a whole range of different text on the actual band itself. It looks very sort of, not say mechanical, how do I want to sort of put it, sort of advanced, a lot of different text on it, kind of struggling for words. But it's a very, very nice watch. All digital, very solid sort of watch, very nice looking, has all the features from a shock resistant point of view. Currently bidding at around about $2,000 Sing, 53 bids, and it's only 3 days to go. So I can expect that we will see that bidding actually go. Now, Shockbase will tell you, if we have a look, Shockbase will tell you this watch typically sells for $2,259,000, $2,259,000, 198,000 yen. So if we look at what the watch price right now is, it's 213,000 yen. Try to work out the calculation. So it's above the market price, or the price which it came out for. So what we could be looking at here is essentially a watch which is a little bit harder to go ahead and actually acquire, as per normal. So interesting to sort of see how people are actually bidding for this. 53 bids, there's a lot of action on this particular watch. So cool watch, very, very nice looking one for all digital. If we go back and have a look at the features, so alpha gel vibration resistance DLC, world time, 39 cities, Bluetooth, tough solar. Like, this is a very, very solid watch. And this was the kind of the futuristic part of the watch itself. You can sort of see the robots and everything. You know, in the age of AI, you want to sell with robots as much as possible. Robots are super important. So, you know, this is a super cool watch as well. All digital, 2,053 bits, lots of action. Let's keep going. This is exciting. This is a MTG. So if you remember, you've got your MRGs, you've got your MTGs, and then you've got your watches underneath. This is the MTG watch, which I have a few of. The MTG B3000D-1AJF, 52,000 yen, $492. That's actually a pretty good price for an MTG. Like, even without looking at Shockbase, typically your MTGs are going to be around about $1,800 to $1,000 Sing in my sort of currency. So not a bad price. The actual number of bids, obviously people are reacting the same sort of way, 97 bids. Let's have a look at Shockbase. This particular watch was going for $1,650 and currently going at $492. So we've got an MTG which is going for about a third of the price. So obviously the reason here we're seeing lots of action on this particular watch is because the price currently is actually quite low, and there's no sort of set price here. Like, this is actually a pretty decent price to be able to go ahead and actually buy an MTG watch. And it does look pretty good. It looks like it's in pretty good condition. There's nothing I can actually see here which I would say is something I would steer clear from. Like, it's pretty clean, it's pretty nice. It probably could just do with a bit of a buff, but it would be a pretty decent watch. And in terms of feature sets, alpha gel vibration resistance, carbon core guard, tough MVT. It has all of the cities in there. Like, this is a functional watch and Bluetooth. So, you know, very, very nice watch to be able to go ahead and actually own. That sort of steel, silver, and red. Not too bad at a third of the retail price that this would normally go for. So that's why we're seeing so much action on this particular watch with 97 bits. Okay, jumping ahead, here's an interesting one. It's a Frogman, right? And we know about the Frogmans. They're great watches. They can really go up in price very, very quickly. I have a Frogman. I sometimes have a love-hate relationship with it because of the click, 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 click. But this is a all-digital Frogman watch, the GWF T1000BS-1JR, currently going for 129,000 yen, $1,200 Sing. The price of this one, 150,000 yen. So it's under the retail price of what it actually went for. 96 bids with 6 hours remaining. So I'm probably thinking by the time you might see us watch, if you wanted a Frogman, you might have actually missed out by the time the video goes up online. But lots of interest in this particular Frogman. And it's a kind of cool Frogman, right? You've got the reds, the blacks. The inscription on the back is very, very cool. It's got all of the features you would actually go ahead and actually expect, right? So you've got auto backlight, multiband 6, tough solar. No Bluetooth, but you've got the time zones. It's a good watch, right? It's a good watch from a pricing point of view. Not too bad. You know, you've got 129,000 yen versus 150,000 yen, so you're probably going to go ahead and actually get it. If you can get it at that price, it'll be a little bit cheaper. But Frogmans typically hold their value pretty well from that point of view. So interesting watch. Okay, this one I get really excited about. This is another MRG, and this one for sure, the price has to be absolutely cheaper than what it goes for in the market. This is a nice metal MRG, all analog, black, gold, and red. Right, you can't get a better color combination than black, gold, and red on this one. This is the MRG B2000B-1A4, currently in the market for $800 Sing. That is a crazy good price for an MRG. Before I even look at Shockbase, I'm guaranteeing that's a really, really good price. 1 day remaining 80 bids, and of course there are 80 bids because it's a good watch, and it looks like it's in pretty top nick as well. Like, that's a well-maintained watch. You could probably accept a little bit of blemishes on it, but that's a pretty nice-looking watch. So if we look at Shockbase, $800, let's come down here and have a look. In Sing, that typically goes for $4,199, so $4,200. That is 5 times less than what the market when it came out at, right? So 4,200, 346,000 yen. Let's go back and look at the yen pricing there. Yeah, 84,000. Like, that is a super good price for an MRG, like at that point. And if we go down and have a look, well, it's all in Japanese. This is one of the challenges in terms of looking at these particular sites. But I think looking at the pictures, it's a pretty decent looking watch. If we did a translation here, let's have a look. It doesn't necessarily say that it has any damage or things like that. So, you know, that's a very, very cool looking MRG for a very, very good price. It's sort of a 5x difference in terms of the actual price itself. So 1 day to go. If you see the video and you really want an MRG at a good price, this is one to be able to go ahead and actually jump into from that point of view. Moving quickly, the G-Shock GBD H1000 watch, which is a very cool, striking sort of watch. This one, $179. So we're kind of looking at a cheaper watch, but the number of bids is pretty full on. 76 bids and 4 hours remaining. I kind of look at these watches and kind of go, I kind of like the look of that watch. I'd like to go ahead and actually jump in. And when we look at this watch, it's obviously one of those sort of G Squad health watches. So 19,000 yen. Let's have a look at what Shockbase says. Shockbase says 55,000 yen. So if we do the comparison, let's just round it up. 20,000 yen towards 60,000 yen. It's just under a third of the actual price itself, right? That's a pretty good deal on a watch. It looks fairly legible. It's got auto backlight, Bluetooth, solar assisted G-Shock move vibration. This is one of those athletic watches that you might go ahead and actually use. My only concern with these particular watches is this aspect of charging. Like, I really like the G-Shock watches that are either battery or tough solar, but anything I need to put on a charger every night is just, I'm not a fan of, right? I have an Apple Watch, I need to charge it all the time, and I basically use it purely for when I go for a run, right? But if I had a G-Shock watch, which I'd use regularly, I don't know if I'd want to go ahead and actually have to go ahead and actually charge it. I know this particular watch has GPS. You can sort of see it here, global positioning system, which typically GPS functionality tends to suck down the battery in many watches. But if you wanted to play around with a particular watch like this and hadn't done it before, not a terrible price, right? You've got 179 versus 599. So it's like a 3x price reduction. Not a bad watch at all. Okay, let's jump ahead. Let's look at some expensive ones again. MTG. Very pretty, very rainbowy colored watch. 71 bids, 1 day remaining. The price is $661. We already know that MTG is typically around about $800 up, so it's below what we're thinking. Let's have a quick squiz. If we go down and have a look, the price at market was $1,700. So this is way under half of what the watch actually is, and obviously at 71 bids, you can see that the market's actually reacting to that, right? Because that's a really, really good price for this particular MTG. It is obviously, looking at it, it's a combination of metal and resin, which is what MTG likes to go ahead and actually do. Backplate is a typical one, but they have the nice sort of, I'm not sure what you actually call it. It's got that band, which is an interesting one. It's sort of that uniqueness. If we have a look here at G Central, what do they call it? A diffused nebula. You can see the different dots in the actual resin. So really this means that those particular bands, each one is going to be unique. It's like my porcelain watch. Each porcelain watch will be unique because of the way the band's actually fabricated. So, you know, it's an interesting band from that point of view, interesting watch. So $1,699 versus the auction price, which is $600. So you're under half price, almost sort of close to less than a third of the actual price itself. 71 bids, lots of action. Jumping ahead once more, now we're under $100. So this is the G-Shock GA-110EV. This is a Neon Genesis Evangelion watch. I should notice, I used to like watching the anime series itself, but you can sort of see the colors as well. If you've ever watched Neon Genesis Evangelion, that sort of color scheme is very much aligned to the watch itself, or aligned to the actual cartoon series. This one, $82. Number of bids is 66. Now, what did this go for? If we have a look, 19,000 yen, currently at 8,000 yen. So it's under half price for what it actually is. And obviously a lot of fans of Neon Genesis Evangelion. There we go. You can see the backplate there with Evangelion on there. So, you know, interesting looking watch. Not my cup of tea, but some people will kind of like it. I'd almost sort of say it's a bit like the Joker as well, but there you go. Moving ahead, we've got a DW6900JZ QZ, which is $33 and 59 bids. Like, that's a lot of action for a very, very cheap watch. And a very green watch at that as well. Now, this particular watch, when it came to market, it is a Jammin color collection, 12,000 yen, no tough sole, no nothing, 12,000 yen. It's currently at 3,500 yen. So just over a quarter of the actual market price. You know, obviously people kind of like this particular look of the actual watch itself. Nothing really special in terms of backplate, just a very crazy sort of colored green. Maybe it has the same thing in terms of the swirling effect on the actual resin band itself, so each one of them is actually unique, but I guess a green and white watch is something unique that you can actually go for. Then let's have a look. We're back at MTGs. I probably should try and actually structure these a little bit better so you can kind of go from the highest price and work your way back down, but it's always fun to jump around. MTG, this one is 37,000 yen. Again, straight away, I know we're going to be at a cheap price here. $351, 65 bits. Very black, very blue MTG. Looks pretty decent if these are the actual watches. And, you know, a lot of people ask me how good are the watches that come off Bai. I'm pretty confident that most of the time the watches you actually see on Bai are representative of the final product, right? They're coming from Japan. They take a lot of pride in what they do. So pretty good looking watch from that angle. If we have a look at the price of 351, 37,000 yen, compare that to the market, 126,000 yen, $1,399, $1,400, right? That's just over 3x price difference, right? So that's not a bad price for a MTG. The blue and the black, I'm not really big on me. I've got a blue background, I guess, but I'd like I kind of like the reds and the golds a bit more in some of those G-Shocks. But this is actually a pretty decent price for a MTG if you wanted to get in that particular market as well. Last watch, just as we start to wrap up, this is a GA140, $29. This is probably the cheapest watch on the actual G-Shock buy hunt today. $29, but look at the number of bids. 63 bids for this particular watch. And it is a GA140. So this particular watch is going for about $30. The market price for it, Singapore, is $179. So do my calculations, that's a sixth of the price. Okay, so this watch currently, 4 days remaining, so obviously the price will go up some more, but it's currently at a sixth of the actual market price. Now, in terms of features and capabilities, nothing really huge from that point of view. Maybe it's just a good-looking watch that people kind of like. Maybe it's hard to be able to go ahead and actually get. It came out in July 2019. No tough solar, no multiband 6. It's a mineral glass, CR battery life, negative display. Not what I'd actually go for, but there's no doubt the interest for this particular watch with 63 bids is pretty interesting. So maybe there's some history behind it which I'm unaware of. Maybe it's just striking, but interesting to see a $30 watch, and hasn't even got to $30, has currently 63 bids on it as well. So really interesting. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the video today. Just a short video. I'm probably sure it went for a lot longer. I'm looking at the timer, probably about 26 minutes. But thank you for spending some time with me today to go have a look at some of the watches on buye.com. It's really interesting to see the way the market's actually shifting. We've seen some great watches, some MRGs, some MTGs, some standard G-Shock watches that's getting a lot of action and love from people in the community. So I'm hoping I can ask for your love as well by liking, subscribing, sharing these videos. Really appreciate your support so we can keep going ahead and actually doing this. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.